Yeah, don't count on anything that is
Yeah,
no.
like don't count those chickens, I guess.
Don't count them motherfucking chickens, dude. I never ever have counted a chicken, not even once.
I took a lease out on your heart. I took a lease out on your heart. Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun?
Welcome back, everybody. We are Rough Draft Research. You are the audience, and together we're on a quest for Dynasty Domination. How's it going over there, Daniel?
Ooh, I'm doing well, man. I'm pretty pumped to get into it tonight. A little giddy. So, what about
Yeah.
you?
Oh, same man. Been a little busy. Still have a cough, recovering from either the flu, maybe it was COVID. Who knows?
Doing
These days,
the
the
whooping
whooping
cough.
cough, maybe
It's
that's what
coming
it
and
is.
going.
But I'm feeling better and little flustered. Forgot how much work the bracket is because that is what we're
Oh,
talking about today. We are starting our 2025 March Madness Rough Draft Research Dynasty Rookie Tournament. If you needed a name, there's a name. It's a mouthful. But yeah, I mean, we're gonna go through. If you haven't joined us with this before, we're gonna go through our four divisions. We've got the West, the Midwest, the South, and the Atlantic. And yeah, we're just gonna start going through all these rookies and eliminate people as we go and try to crown a champion. But it's really more about just talking about as many of these guys so we can all be prepared for our dynasty rookie drafts coming up here in a couple months as we can be. So on that note, I mean, we're gonna get started just right away because these take quite a while. So we're gonna get into the West bracket right now. Um, and we'll just go ahead and go with the first matchup. We've got our number one seed running back Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State. And then our number 16 seed Woody Marks out of USC, also a running back. I don't know that there's much of a challenge here, or at
no.
least, but I do like Woody Marks as a player. I think he's solid. I don't know that he's going to separate himself and become some kind of game changer or anything like that, but he's good. He's got good vision. He's a smart player. I remember watching tape on him. There's this up against Penn State. They did one of those like pitch to the running backs and then he runs a little bit and is going to throw it back to the quarterback. But
Mm,
he went to throw it and then just like tucked it because he read the defender was right on top of the quarterback. And then he kept the ball and like ran to the left and gained like 15 to 20 yards. And to me, it's plays like that that will keep him on an NFL roster. And like he might have a big game or two. He's somebody I'd be interested if the people in front of him get hurt. But I just don't know that he has the upside to really be a game changer.
yeah, I don't know. You're right. I don't think he has that upside. Like you said, he's got good vision, and he offers some good, nice open field like escape and awareness. But I guess the startup speed and his processing speed don't really give him the edge. He kind of gets closed in on by the defenders, and so that's kind of slowing me down on the hype for him. But I mean, he is 24, and that's
Mm.
not really great. And it was only really 1 year of production after 4 years at Mississippi State. He went to USC in 2024,
Mm.
had a nice little 1,000 yard season, only 9 touchdowns. So he's definitely a player that I enjoyed watching the film on, but just in this class, he's definitely getting lost a little bit in the depth and the competition level.
Oh yeah, the RB class this year is absurd. After a few years where it was like one or two guys, and then last year where it was like we were scrounging for an RB1 of that class, and now we've got like 10.
Yep.
So it's pretty crazy. And like what you're saying, he was fun to watch, but I mean a burst score of 51, 51st percentile and a relative athletic score of 6.55. Neither of those are bad, but he just kind of screams like likely a role player. And then again, I mean, in tournament turns, he's going up against the the god of this class.
Yeah.
So like it's hard for him to really get any leeway here. But I'm with you. I liked watching his tape. I think he has something to offer NFL teams. But in terms of like fantasy long-term value, I don't really buy it.
Yep, I'm with you on that, man. So we'll flush him.
Alrighty. So we got number one seed Ashton Jeanty moving on, and Woody Marks. Unfortunately, your tournament has ended early. Moving on after that, we have our number eight seed Tez Johnson, wide receiver out of Oregon, going up against the small school standout seed, the ninth seed, UNLV's Ricky White, also a wide receiver. And again, if you haven't joined us previously, our number nine seed is always slotted for a smaller school. Just trying to highlight one of those guys. This is a closer matchup. I think I give it to Tez Johnson though, still.
I'm gonna agree with you on
Okay.
that one. I did really like Ricky White,
Hmm.
and he did. I have to. Okay, so we're going with Tez, right?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So then we can get into to Ricky a little bit. Um, I think he does a really good job of getting open. Like he's
Hmm.
got some really nice move and shake to him.
Hmm.
Um, And he was a big time playmaker in his kind of small school world. I watched the Fresno game and it was pretty awesome, man. The skills after the catch were a little lacking, but I thought that he had a pretty good job just nailing down some good production. In
Hmm.
2023, he had a 1,483 yard season and then followed it up with 1,000 yards this past year. So he's definitely been playing at a high level for quite some time. But yeah, Tez kind of jumped off the tape a little bit to me
Yeah.
in ways that I was pretty excited about, even though he's got a slight disadvantage on the size scale.
Yeah, I mean that's Johnson's like one obvious flaw, but he makes up for it with that playmaking ability. I mean, you speak about Ricky White's yards after the catch and like after catch ability. I mean, White had only 432 of his 1,032 yards came after the catch, whereas Tez Johnson's had was 648 of his 898 yards were after the catch. So I mean, yeah, he has that one major obvious flaw weighing in at 154 pounds and being short. But White, he does have some interesting ta traits. Like I agree with you. He's got some shake. He's got the ability to get open, but he lacks like the true athleticism that we would want to see at the combine. I mean, you look at his combine stuff. He ran a 4.6. It's not great. 57th percentile burst score and a 4.172 RAS, relative athletic score for anybody that doesn't know what that means. It's basically just an accumulation of all the athletic testing and where they rank. Obviously, none of those things by themselves matter, but just looking at the big picture, it's hard to see him being more than like a two, or maybe even a three in an offense. But he has some cool stuff. Like he's an aggressive blocker, which I like, especially in today's NFL. He's shifty, he can get open, he has quick moves. I worry about his hands a little bit. Seven drops compared to Tez Johnson's two this season. But he was productive. I mean, over 1,000 yards with 11 scores. But he also played in the Mountain West. So it's one of those like, was it the competition level? But he's got some good tape. I mean, the Utah State game is one I would highlight. He had really, really good game that week. Late hands catches all over the place. Had a great corner of the end zone touchdown, stuff like that. But I just think Tez gives you a little more. I don't know that I buy either of these two as like true difference makers on your fantasy team. But I think Tez has a little bit more to move on to the next round.
Yeah, I think so too. We'll see how his draw goes. I think he's gonna probably have a rough path, but we could definitely get some W here.
All right. Well, so Tez Johnson moving on, and speaking of that rough path, he's going up against Ashton Jeanty next time. So we'll see how he does there. Ricky White, small school standout. You were awesome, but sorry, you are staying here. So our next matchup is the first quarterback we're going to talk about. Five seed Shedeur Sanders out of Colorado, going up against the 12 seed Jordan James out of Oregon. Diving into this was my first real time diving into Sanders tape, and I don't really get like where all the hate is coming from.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that he's like groundbreaking in terms of talent, but he has some great traits, and I do think he could be developed. And kind of like what we talked about with Woody Marks, on the other hand, I feel like Jordan James is kind of lost in this deep RB class. So I'm moving on Sanders here.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah, I've got a
Okay.
lot of decent things to say about Sanders, but they're gonna have to wait,
All
man.
right. Fair enough. Well, yeah. So, I mean, James, we talked about him a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I feel like in other RB classes, he might have been a sleeper, but he's not even like my most intriguing sleeper this year, just
Um,
because of how deep this RB class is. I do think he has nice power. He's got nice balance and mental traits, but I do think he lacks like the explosiveness and really just like that extra sauce that could make
yeah.
him a massive difference maker. I said a couple weeks ago that like his best case scenario to me was uh oh geez David Montgomery, which David Montgomery's had a great career and been awesome, but if that's your best absolute best case scenario and everything has to go right to get that, I don't know that that's something I can get behind. But he was great this year. I mean, 1,200 yards, 15 touchdowns, adding another 200 yards through the air. And he's got a lot of nice traits, but I just don't know that he is, again, you might hear me kind of repeat this line a lot, but I don't know that he's like a true difference maker.
Yeah, he is kind of a role player. I know what you mean. He does have like a powerful running style with lightning adjustments. I really liked his vision. Um, but then you're right. I mean, he takes things up the middle with power, and he can move a pile. But he's not that effective through congestion, and he kind of lacks that top end kind of runaway speed. So he can get things done in the short game, but as far as being that complete back that you're looking for, he lacks there.
Hmm.
That'd be cool if he could find that Demont style role. But this guy's 5'10", 205. One shining positive is he's the youngest guy in the West bracket. He's only 21 years old, and that does matter in the running back game. So I don't know. This, like you're saying, this is a guy that like normally we would pretty much be keeping to ourselves. Probably
Hmm.
drafted in third round, maybe still will be, depending on how the NFL feels about him. But you're right, he doesn't really carry that much excitement. Just the depth, man. Then we could just
Yeah.
keep talking about the depth of this running back class. But
I mean, we're gonna
I,
talk. Yeah, go ahead.
no, you're good. I was just gonna say. I liked what he did last year. Obviously, I keep talking about this, how he was able to put down some good work with Bucky Irving in there.
Hmm.
Um, and he's pretty well rounded in the stats. So you already highlighted him, and I think he does have potential, but he's not really elite at anything that the other guys in this class aren't better at. So
Yeah, I mean, there's sleepers or like quote sleepers in this class just because of how many RBs there are that would be like the third or fourth or maybe even in the argument for first. There's a couple guys who are going to be considered sleepers in this class that would have been the RB1 last year.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's just another guy that like again, I'm intrigued. I will see where he falls. I may take a flyer on him in later rounds depending on where he goes. But I just yeah, I don't see he needs to be a role player. He needs to be the thunder to somebody's lightning, and I just don't know that that's enough for me to get really excited about him. So we've got Shedeur Sanders moving on, and Jordan James is going to stay put in the round of 64. So our next matchup is Elic Ayonmanor, wide receiver out of Stanford, going up against another wide receiver out of Washington State, the 13 seed Kyle Williams. So that's our 4 versus 13 seed here. Um, this was an interesting matchup. I Williams showed some stuff, has really good speed, great footwork, but Ayonmanor just has the polish and the skills to win this fairly easily to me.
Yes. Okay. This is where it gets weird for me because I really am getting a crush on Kyle Williams
Okay.
in a big way, but he just drew that big contender with Elic, man. He's really kind of stolen our heart through this whole pre draft
Mm.
research, and so you can't really take him out at this moment. Um, but I mean,
Yeah.
you said it like he's got some good moves. I really like Kyle Williams. I watched a Syracuse game, and man, he is just getting guys off their game.
Hmm.
He gets tricky off the line. He's feisty in his routes, and he especially likes to beat guys and then like speed past him to use a separation and time some nice clean catches. Like he creates separation and then uses it at the catch point. And his timing and the control of his speed is a really unique skill set. And I think it was a lot of fun. And obviously it translated to some big time production. He had 17 touchdowns on only 60 catches, just
Hmm.
over 1,000 yards. That's pretty incredible. Um, I'm sure, yeah. I mean, the yards after the catch per catch, or the yards after catch per reception were 8.4.
Hmm.
That's a pretty substantial number. I think it beats out pretty much all the rest of these guys pretty easily. So I like a lot about him. 69% contested catch, and then he ran a 4.4. I don't know. There's some things athletically to want to see improved, but he's got the speed and he uses it in his game. But I don't know.
Yeah, the yak per reception is second for the whole tournament behind Dante Thornton,
Okay.
who's the burner over there in Tennessee. But yeah, I mean he obviously being second in a tournament filled with some great guys at that is a really it's a straw in his cap or whatever you want to say for sure. He's got the speed and he has great footwork, so it's not just a speed thing with him. He's kind of lacking in some of the other athletics traits like the 50-second burst score, 6.24 RAS. But like you said, the production was great, even if the Cougars didn't play the most premium competition. And I'm worried that he will fill a role as a speed guy at the next level, but maybe he can kind of break out of that and really set himself apart because I do think he could develop some more moves and um, uh, some more areas to his game. But he is 23, which isn't like on the high end for wide receivers necessarily, but it's not young either when you're coming into the NFL. So there's some stuff I like about him, but yeah, it's not enough to beat Io Manor for sure.
All right. Well, it was a tough one for me, but I'm willing to move on.
Alrighty, so we got Elic Io Manor setting up a matchup against Shedeur Sanders next week, and Kyle Williams staying put. So our next matchup is Cam Skattebo versus a running back out of Arizona State versus the 11 seed Oregon tight end Terrance Ferguson. Third Oregon Duck on the list and our first tight end. Um, Tough draw for Mr. Ferguson because I do like Ferguson, but I don't think he can beat Skattebo.
No, I mean, Skattebo is definitely the darling of this off season.
Hmm.
He's doing quite well.
Yeah, his
Uh,
few people have raised their draft stock more than Skattebo over the last couple months
Yeah, it's on a rocket, man. And he doesn't, yeah, at this point he doesn't have to do anything but sit back
and get
and let the
drafted.
praise comes. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
he's definitely gonna get an opportunity. I mean, that game against Texas to cap his season was just
Hmm.
insane. So
Yeah.
he's definitely next level. He's definitely got the push here over Ferguson.
Yeah, I'm with you. But Ferguson is an interesting player. He showed out at the combine as well. Ran a 4.6. at 240 something pounds, 6'5", 94th percentile burst score for the tight end, and an RAS of 9.84. So
Wow.
really just crushed it in terms of the athleticism. The production didn't really light up the world like you'd want to see, but it wasn't terrible. 591 yards and three scores. Nothing to write home about, but pretty fairly decent. But matching it with that combine, I think somebody could be intrigued by him going into the NFL draft. And I liked what I saw on tape from him. He needs to improve his blocking.
Yeah.
It's not terrible, but it's definitely not great. And then you would like a better contested catch rate out of your tight end, 37% for his career throughout college and 25% this past season. So not really the numbers you're looking for. But I do think somebody could look at that score and similar to like a Theo Johnson last year who came in and just really dominated the combine and somebody might be able to use him and another guy I'm intrigued to see where he's going to go, see if there's a room for him to kind of squeeze through a tight end room. Um, but it's more of just like a interesting intrigue and less of like oh, I'm really sold on this guy.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he's a pretty high level contender or a contributor, I mean, to Oregon themselves. Like he was kind of he was a big part of the offense, even though he was underutilized only with the 43 catches. But he was lining up all over the formation.
Hmm.
He did some motion, some work in the backfield, and I liked it. He just had that like stereotypical tight end move where he could just throw a block and then rub off the guy into a short route. And I thought he caught the ball well outside of his frame, and kind of took off when the ball was in his hands. Had a lot more speed than I would have expected. So if people can project, how to use him in an offense, I think he's got a pretty good shot at, eventually being a starter, perhaps.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's he's definitely a landing spot dependent type guy, but I'm with you. I do think he could be developed and had some interesting tape in terms of like maybe what people could do with, or what coaches in the NFL could do with him at the next level. But Cam Skattebo is definitely moving on to the next round, whereas Terrance Ferguson, our first tight end, is staying put. Next matchup, we got our number three seed wide receiver out of Arizona, Tetairoa McMillan, going up against the 14th seed out of San Jose State, wide receiver Nick Nash. This one's a runaway, yeah.
A little bit, yeah. He's getting burnt. Sorry, Nick.
Yeah, sorry, Nick Nash. From a production standpoint, though, it's hard to argue with what Nash accomplished this season. 1,382 yards, 16 touchdowns. By far our target leader in the
Yeah.
tournament with 172 targets. But what really would have helped him is like an impressive combine after putting up all those stats, because he was playing in the Mountain West Conference. So you'd want a combine to kind of help you prove that it wasn't just you playing against future accountants
Whoa.
out in that conference. And then he came out and he ran a 4.57, not horrible, but 39th percentile burst score, 6.63 RAS. I just don't think that's going to cut it. I do think the production and kind of his size will help him. And somebody will bite on him and maybe try to develop him into something. He is 6'3", 203. But he's also 25 years old.
Yeah. It's
So
killer.
it's just there's just too many factors going against him to make him like a super viable target in dynasty rookie drafts, in my opinion. But hell of a season.
Yeah, no, it was nice. There's 16 TDs, dude. Yeah, this guy is interesting to me because he played quarterback for
Hmm.
several years and then took a long time well, I mean, he transitioned to wide receiver, but didn't really. I mean, he had a good 2023, but the production scaled up when the utilization went up. So, I mean, what he did is pretty consistent with the previous year. It's just too bad he kind of flushed three prime years
Yeah.
playing quarterback, which is good for him. But I do like his style, man. As far as the film goes, I watched the Oregon State game,
Hmm.
and he has a cool launch off the line of scrimmage, um, and he just kind of got clean. He looked like I hate to say it, but he kind of had like a Mike Evans kind of launch off the line, where he just, released and everyone kind of knew what was coming at him, but it didn't really throw him off his game. He was just doing whatever he wanted and he had success. It looked pretty natural as a receiver and the size, he was using it to his advantage. He was a pretty strong player and did really well in the red zone, as shown by that high touchdown number. So, I mean, he's the kind of guy that might have like a short good career, nice little rookie campaign if someone can figure out how to, keep the momentum going with what he put up last year.
Yeah, like if Denver Broncos want to add him to their super old rookie train with
Yep.
Devon Villay over there. But yeah, as interesting as he was, he's not somebody I'm really looking forward to targeting in these drafts. But did have a great season, and I hope. I mean, obviously, with all these guys, I hope we're wrong.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure. We need
not
64 champions, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's not gonna be, but you never know. But so Tetairoa McMillan is gonna be moving on the 3 seed, setting up a matchup for with him and Cam Skattebo.
Okay.
So that
That's
should
gonna
be
be a good one.
interesting
Jeez.
next round. But we're
Yikes,
not there
man.
yet.
West is feisty.
The West is pretty feisty. Now, this matchup we've got coming up was probably one of the hardest for me so far in the round of 64. I mean, we just started, but it was a tough one for me. We got our number 7 seed wide receiver Jalen Royals out of Utah State going up against the number 10 seed wide receiver out of Colorado State, Tory Horton. Um, man, I like Tory Horton's tape, man. Um, I leaned safety here because of Horton's injury. But to me, so I gave it to Royals because I also really like Royals. But man, Horton is a fast player. He ran a 4.5 coming off an injury, was only cleared like a week or two before the combine. And he was clearly disappointed by that time. And he had a 9.79 RAS score. I just like him, man. He's scrappy. He fights for extra yardage, fights against physical coverage. Had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons before getting hurt last season. And I mean, he had a slow start to this year. His first 3 games weren't anything great, but then he had 230 yards over his last two. So I just think there's a lot to like here, and I'm really intrigued to see where he goes in the NFL draft. But I gave it to Royals. What are you thinking?
Oh, I 100% gave it to Royals, man.
Okay.
I mean, you got to consider, right? Horton got injured, played 6 games, put 353 up. Royals got injured, played 7 games, put 834 up.
Yeah.
Royals was doing insane things, averaging well over 100 yards per game, going into the injury, and then he bounced back from that, as did Horton, and then they both put up comparable 40 times at
Hmm.
the combine. Um, yeah, you're not going to find me betting against Royals. I really like this guy, so I'm going to have to agree with you,
Okay.
Horton. But like you said, I liked his film a lot. I liked he was active, like a very active player. He was blocking very well,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that's definitely going to get the attention of some people trying to fill their wide receiver rooms. Like I kind of get sick of watching the all 22 and the guys just kind of stand at the line of scrimmage for, run play. There was nothing like that going on for Horton. He was
No.
getting into it.
Yeah.
Um, but he played strong with the ball in his hands too, even though it didn't really come through on the yards after the catch. And I didn't see a lot of separation for a guy with the 4.4 speed.
Hmm.
Um, but he had extremely high intensity. And I think that between the combine and the way he pops off the tape, he's definitely going to be, he's got a rising stock as well. So,
Yeah, I agree with you. And speaking to his feistiness and his competitiveness, he had 43 total contested attempt throughout college, and he had above a 50% success rate on those. And he was second in the tournament at wide receivers for yards per route run at 4.45, which is pretty crazy. I mean, obviously a smaller sample size than a lot of these other guys because of the injury. But yeah, a guy I liked, not enough to beat Horton, but just man, I was kind of sad that he drew Royals on this first round. It's just a little tough to try to put him in front of there, but I would have liked to see him go a little farther. But sadly, not sadly, Jalen Royals is awesome. So Jalen Royals is moving on to the next round, and Tory Horton is going to stay here. And that brings us to our final matchup of the Western bracket. We've got our 15 seed out of Syracuse, another tight end, Oronde Gadsden, the second, going up against the 2 seed, Travis Hunter, wide receiver out of Colorado. This one's not close. Tight ends are dropping like flies around these parts. Um, but I mean, Gadsden did have decent production, pretty good production this year, 934 yards, 7 scores. He's got strong hands, almost 60% contested catch rate, and he's an aggressive blocker, which I liked. Um, I just think, I mean, kind of again, one of these guys that the upside just is lacking, and he's more likely going to be a role playing tight end at the next level. Whereas Travis Hunter, his only issue is we don't know what position he's going to play, or if he's going to play two, or how much that's going to affect him by playing two, like all these things. But it's all like he's so good that he might do too much and be not as fantasy viable. But we'll deal with him down the road. What'd you think about Gadsden?
I kind of liked him a lot,
Yeah.
actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought he was a strong inline blocker. And his routes were good from the slot. I thought he burned a few linebackers, and he had a good size speed combination. But he didn't get separation consistently. But he was one of those guys where if the defense forgot about him, he'd kind of make him pay for it.
Big
Um,
time.
so that was pretty cool. Definitely attacked the ball at the catch point in a way that I liked. He had 17 contested catches. And I guess I was confused. He spent his first 2 years at Syracuse as a wide receiver.
Hmm.
Had his sophomore year pretty decent numbers, pretty much the same as what he had last year, but then only played 2 games his junior year. So you kind of wonder if he had had 3 healthy years back to back to back, what we'd be saying about him at this point. But I think he's kind of a sleeper at the position. Um, Honestly, after watching more Travis Hunter film, I won't, I've got write-ups on all these guys, so I won't go too much into it, but I don't think Travis Hunter's going to be playing too much wide receiver,
Yeah.
personally. Yeah,
Okay.
like no, I don't know. It is what it is. I can talk about it another time.
All right. Well, we will definitely get into that. But for now, Gaddison, you are staying in the round of 64, and Travis Hunter, you are moving on, which sets up a West round of 32, which features Ashton Jeanty versus Tez Johnson, Shedeur Sanders versus Elic Ayonmanor, Cam Skattebo versus Tetairoa McMillan, Jalen Royals versus Travis Hunter. So some pretty spicy matchups coming out of the West after the round of 64. So join us. We're going to be putting out 2 episodes this week and kind of going forward until we cruise through this bracket. So next episode we will be doing the Midwest bracket, but that is it for the West. Anything you got to say before we head out of here?
Oh no. I mean, I'm so pumped, man. This West bracket, we talked a lot about there's a lot of wide receivers in there, man,
Yeah.
and I don't know how much we can talk trash on that competition level because like half these guys were from the Mountain West, man. I'm gonna have to start taking that conference more seriously, I guess.
I
But
apparently so, yeah.
other than that, I mean, whew, feels good. Let's on to the next one, man.
Alrighty, well, until then, we've been Rough Draft Research, you've been the audience, and we'll see you in the Midwest.
Woo, we're already here.
I took a lease out on your heart.